Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to City Hall for those of you who were not here last week. At this point, I'd like to call the August 25th, 2025 City Council regular meeting and work study session to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, there he is over there now, new place. Please conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski.
Present.
Vice Mayor Jan Duboskus.
Here.
Council members Barry Graham.
Here.
Adam Quasman.
Here.
Kathy Littlefield. Mary Ann McAllen.
Present.
And Solange Whitehead.
Here.
And, City Manager Greg Caton.
Here.
Interim City Attorney Louis Santiago.
Here.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Here.
Acting City Auditor Leigh Clough.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. This evening we have Scottsdale Police Officer Leander and Sergeant Eric Bowles, as well as firefighter Michael Malachek. If anyone requires their assistance, please let a member of our staff know. As an announcement, please note that item number 16, the City of Scottsdale General Plan 2035, was withdrawn by staff and will not be considered by the City Council this evening. Also, the planned work session item, which was an update on wildfire mitigation and volunteers at the Scottsdale Fire Department, specific to preventative wildfire mitigation efforts, was withdrawn by staff due to an agendizing error and has been continued to Tuesday, September 9th. So I apologize if you're here for either one of those issues. Neither will be held or discussed tonight. I'd like to call upon Councilwoman McAllen to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. And this evening, Councilman Adam Quasman will lead the invocation.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight, I'm going to be delegating the invocation to Rabbi Shmuley Bronstein. Rabbi, if you'd please join us at our new podium over here. And after the invocation, I'll be giving a brief bio.
Almighty God, Master of the universe, today is Rosh Chodesh Elul, the beginning of a month in the Jewish calendar known as a time of reflection and closeness to you. Our sages teach that during Elul, the king is in the field, that you are near to every person, wherever they may be. As we open this Scottsdale City meeting, we ask that you bless our leaders in our city with wisdom, with clarity, and with peace. Grant us wisdom, the wisdom to see that every human being is created in your image, each one possessing dignity and purpose. The sages teach who is wise, one who learns from every person. May we be wise enough to listen, to learn, and to respect the divine spark within every voice. Grant us clarity, the clarity to distinguish between healthy debate and harmful division, between disagreement that strengthens us and conflict that weakens us. In a democracy such as ours, differences of opinion are not a liability, but a blessing. For through them, we refine our vision and strengthen our community. And grant us peace. Not only the peace that comes when we all agree, but the deeper peace that comes when people of different perspectives, backgrounds, and walks of life live together with mutual respect. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, reminded us that even one act of goodness and kindness can tip the scale of the entire world toward peace. We also recognize that by gathering here tonight, this council is fulfilling one of the 7 Noahide laws, the universal code given by God to all humanity, the command to establish systems of justice that bring order and fairness to society. And may all 7 values guide us to never blaspheme your name, not to commit murder, not to commit adultery, not to steal, not to be cruel to any living creature, and that every society be governed by just laws based on the recognition and acknowledgement of you, O God. May Scottsdale be blessed as a city that reflects these timeless principles. Bless our leaders of this. Bless the leaders of this council. Bless all who call Scottsdale home, and bless our nation with wisdom, clarity, and peace. And let us say, Amen. Before I step down, the Torah teaches that every prayer has to come with a practical application of something good. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe asked my grandfather when he did this, my wife's grandfather in Congress, that he do a mitzvah on the spot. So I brought with me a silver-coated pushka carved out with the city of Jerusalem, and I'm going to put $2 into it. One on behalf of me and Councilmember Cosman, one on behalf of everyone else here. And when you go home, you can think of one more mitzvah to do to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Mayor, if I might, I would like to just give a quick bio of Rabbi Shmuley, who's just wonderful. Rabbi Shmuley Bronstein, originally from Brooklyn, New York, studied in Brooklyn, Connecticut, France, and Canada, where he went on to receive his rabbinical ordination. Known for his dynamic personality, as we all saw, Rabbi Bronstein has traveled as part of a rabbinical internship program dedicated to the personal and spiritual well-being of underserved communities. They are certainly deserved. They are absolutely underserved, serving Jewish populations in Eastern Europe, South America, and Asia. As part of this work, he also volunteered as an ASL interpreter, helping deaf students fully participate in Jewish programs and community life. Before moving to Scottsdale with his wife to open the Chabad of South Scottsdale, Center for Jewish Life, Rabbi Bronstein spent 2 years directing the educational department of the Jewish Children's Museum's International Chidon program. He also teaches Talmud at the local Scottsdale Yeshiva High School, one where, God willing, my son and my 2 sons will be able to study one day. More than his communal leadership role, Rabbi Bronstein is most proud to be a husband to Mushki and a father of their adorable daughter, Chana. And if I might say, for those of you who don't know what a pushki is, it's one of the staples in any community, and God willing, I'll be promoting something soon in the next year to have a pushki also in this office, and that is a charity box. That is something that we look for. It doesn't have to be $1, it doesn't have to be a lot of money, it could be 1 penny every day, but it's something that surely would make our world a better place so that every child and every adult knows to add a little bit to make this world better on a daily basis. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you both. That was very nice. As in for the mayor's report, I want to brag a little bit about our fine city. We served as the host for the Arizona League of Towns and Cities this past week, and it was held at the gorgeous, iconic, actually, Scottsdale Princess, and it was nearly a week-long activities and seminars, conferences, team-building exercises, updates on information, what's impacting all of our cities. 91 cities and towns, I should say, were there. Members of our city staff were there. I definitely saw at least 2 and heard 3 of my colleagues were there. It was really a great experience, and we were on full display. Not us, but compliments of Scottsdale Princess and a beautiful week. So shout out to Scottsdale Princess and the city of Scottsdale for hosting that wonderful event. Give a round of applause for the princess. Moving right along. As is the case at every regular meeting, the council may make a motion to move into an executive session during this meeting tonight, and that would involve recessing into obtain legal advice on any applicable item on the agenda. If authorized by the council, the exec session will be held immediately and will not be open to the public. The public meeting would resume right thereafter following the executive session. This is now the time for the first public comment announcement, and there are only 6 people that have signed up for comments, providing comments on non-agendized items, excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and take them all at this time, starting with Steve Sutton, followed by Betty Janik, Carla, Tammy Caputi, Brian Scott, and lastly, Mark Renz. Steve Sutton.
Everyone hear me all right?
Check.
Steve Sutton, address on record. Good evening, Mayor Borowski and council members. After I complete presenting the following information, I will ask the council to act on matters within its jurisdiction. It was August of last year when I first spoke to the City Council about safety and civility problems at Chaparral Dog Park. 6 months later, the City Council, led by Mayor Borowski, implemented what hundreds of Scottsdale residents requested through 2 petitions I created to improve safety and civility at Chaparral Dog Park. If I had known a year ago how many instances of verbal abuse, false accusation, libel on social media, and attempts to physically intimidate me would occur in the coming months, including as recently as a week ago, I may never have spoken to the City Council a year ago. On Sunday, June 1st, 2025, Councilmember Barry Graham received an email from Scottsdale resident John Blackeneck. Mr. Blackeneck, in complaining about the dog park petitions completed 6 months ago, wrote, "Let me tell you that 80% of those signatures were under duress because Steve would harass anyone until they signed his petition." Mr. Blackeneck also wrote, referring to me and the new parking study petition, "He is harassing people until they sign the petition." The absurdity of these accusations is obvious. In a 4-acre dog park with a community of daily users, it is impossible to harass and place hundreds of people under duress to force them to sign a petition. Knowledge of that behavior toward even a few people would quickly spread, making it impossible to get 500 signatures on 2 dog park petitions, and so far 100 people to sign a parking study petition. My courteous behavior and the popularity of the petitions made it easy for me to get signatures from approximately 95% of residents approached for a signature. Now, at this point, you may be thinking this is a trivial incident for the council to be concerned about, and you would be right until you learn of the far from trivial actions taken due to Mr. John Blackeneck's absurd complaints. Last week, I received copies of a series of over 30 emails sent from June 1st to June 6th, 2025, between resident John Blackeneck, Councilmember Barry Graham, City Manager Greg Caton, Chief of Police Joe LeDuc, Assistant Chief of Police Richard Slavin, Assistant City Attorney Thomas Zaworski, Senior Director of Parks and Recreation Nick Molinari, and Parks and Recreation senior staff. Those emails make it very clear that something far from trivial occurred due to John Blackeneck's email. Something that is a threat to all residents of Scottsdale. Something all Scottsdalians should vigorously defend themselves against. I'm out of time tonight. Fortunately, city staff has informed me that I am one of the first 5 residents scheduled to speak in public comment at tomorrow's meeting. I will finish my presentation tomorrow before asking the council to take action on what is within its jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Next, Betty Janik.
Betty Janik, and my address is on record. Good evening, Mayor and Scottsdale City Council. It's good to be back here. On November 2nd, 2021, General Plan 2035 was ratified by a vote of the citizens, the first one in 20 years after several previous unsuccessful attempts. This was accomplished with contributions from numerous citizens providing constructive edits, expert guidance from board and commission members, and visionary council members. Less than 4 years later, the current council wanted to make significant changes and classify them as minor amendments, item 16 on the original August 25th council agenda, which would require only 4 votes to overturn the will of the people. One stated justification was to comply with recent legislative changes on accessory dwelling units, adaptive reuse, among others. In a news release late Saturday afternoon, City Manager Caton stated, because the focus is now on state statutes that the city is already in compliance with, there is no requirement or need for the City Council to initiate these changes, and thus no need for agenda item. Item 16 is gone, snafu avoided. This backpedaling by the city, wholly in part, or in part, was based on Councilwoman Whitehead's knowledge of the law an institutional understanding of the inner workings of our general plan, the city, and the state, which she shared with recently appointed City Manager Caton. Verification of the existing compliance was subsequently noted by our city attorney. We do not and have not changed our general plan annually based on changes to state statutes. Councilwoman Whitehead's experience as she enters her 7th year on council proved invaluable in avoiding possible bumbling by the council's voting majority. The second justification was to comply with recent ideological city council actions. This is totally inappropriate and a violation of our trust. I counted 196 changes to our general plan. Could I have the overhead on, please? These changes were hidden from certain council members and the public until the last minute. Changes included unnecessary wordsmithing, replacement of words such as incorporate or promote with encourage or consider, redacting the words sustainability and diversity, and completely removing policies and adding new ones. That's what I have here. I know that you can't read it because it's a lot of text. It's on page 231 that was part of item number 16. There are 18 items here. 5 of the 18, which is 28%, of these programs were deleted with crossouts. I don't know how anybody would consider that minor. Just one more minute. Equally repugnant was their classification of these as minor, when in fact they are major and an affront to our citizens. It is bad governance to allow 4 council members to approve this plan. I applaud Councilwoman Caputi and all the citizens who contacted City Hall and made the objections known. I suspect this is an additional reason why item 16 was abruptly removed. We need to thank Councilwoman Whitehead for her persistence and fortitude. And finally, I want to know who decided to add item 16 to the agenda, and why was it done in secret? Thank you.
Thank you, former Councilwoman. Next, we have Carla.
Hi, I'm Carla, Preserve Pioneer and Peaceful Valley resident. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As you know, I don't normally speak about things unless it's a preserve issue, but hey, in Scottsdale, normal flew out the window months ago. So I'm grateful that item 16 has been pulled, but I've been around long enough to know that it will probably come back in one form or another. So, and I really hope that staff doesn't take the blame on this. I hope that however this happened, we get the truth and it doesn't come back, but I fear it will. So I want to talk about sustainability. Now, we can all respectfully disagree on what happened to the sustainability plan, but I would hope we can agree on what the word actually means. In this general plan rewrite, everywhere in the environment section that the word sustainable was, can you not hear me? That the word sustainable was, they took it out and put stewardship. Now, as co-founder of the Preserve Steward program, I'm a big believer in stewardship, which means taking good care of things now. And that's different from sustainability, which means taking care of things so that they'll be here for future generations. And I know all of us with kids and grandkids care deeply about that. So those two words don't mean the same thing, and they are not interchangeable. The other thing I'm confused about actually is the place in the general plan, this is weird, where sustainable wasn't taken out was only when it came to the economy and the budget. And much like when the Budget Review Commission presented to council, there was big talk from this council about sustainable budget. So my question to everyone is, why is it okay to use the word sustainable when you're talking about money, but not when you're talking about the very things, land, air, and water, that are absolutely essential to keep residents alive and healthy so they can earn that money? It makes absolutely no sense. So I would just ask, please don't let this come back. Don't waste any more staff time or taxpayer dollars on something like this again, ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Former Councilwoman Tammy Caputi.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tammy Caputi, address is on record. I was part of the council that worked for months on the 2035 general plan. This is a citizen-generated, voter-approved policy document that expresses our collective vision and aspirations for the future of our city. General Plan 2035 built upon decades of feedback and was approved by Scottsdale voters. The community and council spent years fine-tuning every word. Tonight, you are planning to consider overriding the will of the voters for ideological agendas. This is an insult to our residents, a waste of time and tax dollars, and it lacks transparency. Fortunately, the item has been withdrawn. Hidden from view, our shared values of welcoming all and living thoughtfully in our desert environment were crossed out of our general plan. Only a few council members were aware, and it was snuck in on consent agenda. These were not minor changes. These are the core values that make us the gold standard of the Valley and a golden rule city. Even that term was scrubbed. Sustainability means using resources responsibly so they can be available for the long term. That's a dirty word. The censors were so intent on banishing words that might be deemed offensive, they nonsensically purged mention of terms like economic diversity and equality in the context of street safety. They censored the word climate. They cut the words domestic violence, discrimination, and homelessness. Removing words does not magically solve these serious issues. It just makes them more difficult to address. Our process for general plan amendments is intended for changing land uses, not blacklisting words some council members find offensive. General plan amendments follow procedures that provide transparency and public participation. They don't happen in the heat of summer behind closed doors. At Mayor Borowski's town hall, she was asked why council got rid of our sustainability plan. She said, "We already have one. It's called the general plan." Well, we almost lost that too. Stop this lunacy and return to common sense leadership that listens to residents, makes thoughtful decisions that include us all, and sustains us into the future as a world-class city. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Tammy, Tammy?
Yes.
That little mic cover, is it right there? Can you put it, would you mind?
So much better.
Yes, I think it would be better. Thank you. Brian Scott.
Hey there. Test, test, test. Brian Scott. I've got, if you could do the projector. Okay, I've got the event development guidelines for Scottsdale. Nobody wants to talk about these. The Tourism Development Commission doesn't talk about these. The City Council doesn't talk about these when you're voting on events. So the last time I was here, I raised concerns about breaches in Scottsdale's event development funding guidelines regarding the Persian New Year's Festival. These guidelines exist to protect public funds through accountability and transparency. Yet the city is playing fast and loose with the rules for distributing taxpayer money. Here's the post-event reality for the Persian New Year's Festival. On March 1st, only a few hundred people gathered at the Civic Center, thousands less than what is required for funding. The organizer posted a video saying that, calling it a private venue where certain people couldn't be in here. So I'm just going to play that for you real quick.
Excuse me, this is a private venue. You can't be in here.
So she says, excuse me.
Excuse me, this is a private venue. You can't be in here.
Private venue, you can't be in here. That alone disqualifies the this event from public funding. The second scheduled date, March 28th, was canceled, making the contract ineligible. And the final date, May 17th, was a red carpet foreign language movie screening, self-described as an intense drama that explores chaos unleashed in a city. Okay, that has nothing to do with Scottsdale's brand or tourism goals. These failures represent a breach of the guidelines, a breach of the contract, and most importantly, a breach of the public trust. So I am demanding a full audit under Section 7 of the contract number 2025-024-Charlie Oscar Sierra. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Rentz.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, and staff, Scottsdale staff. I'm Mark Rentz, and you have all my contact information with your staff. I checked that earlier. And for the record, I just want to make it clear I'm here representing myself, nobody else, no other organization. I originally was planning to come here to talk about what several of the other speakers talked about, which is agenda number 16, which was loosely stated amending the general plan, and that was removed over the weekend. And I want to start by saying, whatever the council members and city managers' rationale for doing that, I commend you for doing that. I commend the mayor, council, and city manager for revisiting this item and choosing not to proceed with it. In the 6 short months since this council was sworn in, it has taken several controversial actions. Most notably, the elimination of the Scottsdale Sustainability Plan and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity Program and Office. I'm going to focus, both these programs, let me point out, both these programs had strong support from the Scottsdale residents and voters. Both these programs were developed as a result of dozens of meetings, hundreds of hours of participation by city staff, residents, and businesses. It wasn't something, as you all know, that just appeared overnight. I'm going to just take a minute here and talk about sustainability. That's my area of what I'd call a little bit of expertise. I spent 15 years of my career helping landowners, industry leaders develop sustainability plans. And I was part of the team that developed the first nationwide industry it was called Sustainable Forestry Initiative, its sustainability plan. So I have a little bit of expertise. But let me just start real quick with the Cambridge definition of sustainability. That definition is, sustainability is a management approach in which environmental and economic actions of the current generation do not diminish the opportunities to have similar quality life for future generations. So I turn to those council members who want to purge, and yes, I mean purge, the concept of sustainability from our general plan. And I say to you simply this: what's wrong with assuring that our children and our grandchildren's future, what's wrong for ensuring that they have the quality of life we've come to enjoy? So let me just completely close. I'm running out of time by reminding all of us in here tonight that the Scottsdale, 30 seconds if I could, ma'am, the Scottsdale General Plan belongs to all of us. It is not the City Council's general plan. I hope that the council will reflect on this past weekend's decision regarding how you can better represent the people of Scottsdale by encouraging public involvement and taking into consideration their appointment, not through draconian decisions designed to achieve personal political agendas. Thank you very much for your time, Madam.
Thank you. And that concludes the speakers, and I see Councilman Graham. Do you have a question or comment?
Oh, I'm just going to quickly respond to a couple of those comments, which I appreciated all of them. When Mr. Rentz was speaking, the powers that be came in before us, didn't they? Mr. Scott, who spoke about tourism events, this isn't a dialogue, but just something to think about talking to Tourism Development Commission if you've gone to speak with them, meet with commissioners, have you emailed the city council, and because those publicly funded events they must meet certain conditions. They must be open to everybody. So some of those commentaries are concerning. And then to my former colleague, Ms. Councilwoman Janik, you know, we served together, and I learned a lot from you during the years that we served together. And if you're comfortable, we can just talk. You can call me in the future, but you use words like hidden and deleted and secret, and just none of that is true. Like, I would categorically is untrue. So, but I respect you, and I appreciate you coming to talk to us tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment period. Oh, there we go. Councilwoman McAllen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out tonight. I know a lot of you came out to speak specifically about the general plan, but it had been removed. But thank you for your time. I also wanted to commend my colleague, Councilwoman Whitehead, for bringing it to the attention of many of us and helping us to understand the importance of what the general plan stands for and the input of the citizens. And so just thank you so much, and thank you, Solange.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say what a pleasure it is to be here with the colleagues that we spent often late nights with thousands of hours of citizen input writing that general plan. And so I think that is the value we know. It's the soul of the city. And to get over 70% of the voters to support a plan that they wrote, I guess isn't that surprising. So I'm grateful for you being here. I'm grateful for City Manager Caton's decision to remove it from the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Now we are through with public comment on non-agendized items. Next, we have meeting minutes approvals, and we have ask for a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of June 10th, 2025, special budget meeting minutes of June 10th, 2025, special meeting minutes of June 17th, 2025, and executive session minutes of June 17th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate your vote. Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda, items 1 through 14. If any members of the council have any questions on any of the consent agenda items or request to move any of those to the regular agenda, please advise now. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion. Councilwoman DeBoscus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item number 5, the Women's NCAA. It's a $225,000 for tourism. So if we could have a presentation on that, it's a lot of money. I'd like to take a look at it.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and pull that off the consent agenda. Anyone else? I don't see anybody else, so I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 14, with the exception of number 5, which we will have a presentation on.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate your vote. All right, and is there, let's see here. Are you ready to go ahead with the presentation on item
Yes,
number
Madam
5?
Mayor.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, Council, Vice Mayor, Council members, and Mayor. This evening I have a presentation for the Arizona Major Events Host Committee Agreement related to the Women's Final Four event will be taking place here in April of 2026. The event, the Final Four, is once again a regional event. The Arizona Major Host Committee, I'll refer to them as a host committee going forward, is requesting $225,000 in support of a regionally hosted 2026 Women's Final Four. The tournament will be played April 3rd and 5th, 2026 in Phoenix Arena in downtown Phoenix. On June 17th, the TDC recommended City Council allocate $225,000 to support the event funding agreement. Some of the background on the event, looking at this particular slide, we took a look at the men's Final Four, which many may recall took place 2 years ago. In 2024, the host committee requested funding from various municipalities and contracted with ASU, WKey Business School, to complete the NCAA Men's Final Four economic study, which you see some of the numbers here. The Scottsdale investment for the men's Final Four was $432,000. The realized value per the host committee at that time was $581,000, and the economic impact on the region per ASU was $429 million. A little more background information on that particular event. The 24 men's final in Glendale attracted over 713,000 individuals to all the events that took place during the weeks in front of the tournament. Had an average of 75,000 game attendance, 40 million broadcast viewers, and over 2,000 credentialed media. This next one's important. According to Smith Travel Research, our department pulls daily reports related to the Scottsdale area on all the hotel properties. And this was rather significant over that period of time. I believe it was 3 days we measured here. We saw some substantial increase in the room nights in Scottsdale. We had an average occupancy of 77%, which on average over the days was almost up 40%. We had an increase in average daily rate of 352, and again, that was over 30% on the average over those 3 days. The average RevPAR was 273.12, which up 83%. So that was rather significant related to the men's event. So on the analysis, just a little more background, which I think is important here, on how that fund or ask is presented to the Tourism Development Commission and City Council. The host committee has an operating budget requesting $2 million from all the cities in Maricopa County that qualify for Prop 302 funds. The host committee utilized the same formula as the Arizona Office of Tourism for Prop 302 funds and how it's distributed. And that's based on the percentage of total gross revenue sales from previous calendar year, as well as the value of the proposed sponsorship deliverables that we would receive here in Scottsdale. And the host committee calculates the contribution for Scottsdale at $225,000. Some of the highlights related to the contract. We will receive a minimum of 2,000 room nights for Scottsdale as part of the official room blocks. We do anticipate more than that. We are seeing some interest in some groups attending that event. Some sporting groups are coming in, staying at the Valley Ho, so we anticipate getting more than 2,000 room nights. The host committee actively promotes Scottsdale as a preferred destination to sponsors, alumni groups, attendees for lodging, entertainment, and auxiliary events surrounding the tournament. Collaborative efforts will include trophy tourism stop in Scottsdale, local business programs, school engagement initiatives, and opportunities to elevate the Scottsdale brand through digital content, as well as coordinate efforts with Experience Scottsdale, who's planning on doing some incremental marketing and sponsorship for the event. In regards to that, I'm going to stop right there. We're also hosting the CEO Forum in Scottsdale, which I think is a nice thing to have this year. There's 2 properties that are being looked at for that, so that would be interesting. Economic development can work rather closely with that to further explore opportunities there. We're also hosting a VIP golf tournament, similar to that CEU program at a Scottsdale golf course, so that's important as well as read to the Final Four, some other initiatives that are good for the public as well related to this contract. There are also some limited number of tickets we will receive to the game itself and some of the events, and we plan on tying those into city tourism and economic development objectives. Further analysis, as I mentioned, Experience Scottsdale will partner closely with the City of Scottsdale and the host committee to leverage the 2026 NCAA Women's Final Four. And the host committee estimates the value of the sponsorship package at $560,000. Based on the above bed tax investment of $225,000, coupled with the sponsorship benefits, the television coverage and national media exposure should provide substantial value and direct consideration related to the ask here today. And I want, before I get to the action request, I want to fill in a little bit more that staff did related to the funding aspect of this. We did some analysis work. We worked with a consultant, an economic consultant. We first start with the minimum block, which was $2,000, and what would we receive from an economic impact. And we believe that number fell with 2,000 room nights, a little over 100,000. About 6,000 additional visitors would be here in attendance to this, potentially, related to that. So that gets us a little over 100,000. We believe all those other marketing aspects I just went through, the CEO forum, the golf tournament, the marketing exposures, will get us so that we receive fair substantial value for that investment at $225,000. So here's our action request here, resolution number 13473, authorizing funding up to $225,000 from the 25-26 operating budget and support agreement 2025128 for the Women's Final Four agreement in April 2026. That concludes my presentation. Address any questions?
Thank you. I see a question from Councilwoman McCallum.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Steve. I attended the TDC meeting where they did the presentation on the Women's Final Four. I was very interested in it because of having the men's Final Four. I wanted to make sure that the women's Final Four was getting their due, their just reward, so to speak, that they were getting as much money. We actually are only asking for almost half of what we gave to the men's. I know that last week I saw a presentation at the Arizona League of Cities, and they talked about at Sky Harbor Airport, Mayor Gallego of Phoenix just unveiled a massive mural to advertise the Women's Final Four, and that rooms are already filling up fast. I always find it fascinating that another city like the city of Phoenix is out there publicizing, putting all this money into it. They're having the event in the city of Phoenix, but all the VIP events are happening in the city of Scottsdale. So we do get the bang for the buck. We are definitely getting more than our fair share, I believe, not actually hosting the event, but all the ancillary events that build the actual Women's Final Four. So I wholeheartedly support this, and with that, I will move to adopt resolution number 13473.
Second.
Thank you. I see a question from Vice Mayor DeBascus and also Councilman Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This all sounds wonderful. Can we get a follow-up report on how it came out? I would love to hear that we booked out 2,500 rooms and the success. I'd love to hear about that. I'm also a big proponent of combining events like you're doing here with having golf tournaments and things. I think that makes it even more attractive to come and stay in Scottsdale and spend dollars in Scottsdale, and I'm grateful that you're collaborating with Experience Scottsdale on this as well. So if it hadn't been the motion hadn't been seconded, I would second it as well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was very funny because Councilwoman DeBascus read my mind. And what I'd like to do is not just a follow-up report. Let's use this as an example. This is a very good data point that we can have a really thorough audit of how we utilize our economic development dollars. It's a finite amount, it's not too big, we have a large event, it's in a specific place, we have sites set out. So when we have a report, I would love to, prior to the end of this year, let's have a comprehensive benchmark, if we can have that set up, Mr. Caden, so that if we could do that, we will absolutely see, okay, it hit 1, 2, and 3, but it failed on 4, 5, and 6, and here's where you think we could move from there, right? And I think that this can be utilized going forward for both large events and small. And I think that the people, the residents really do deserve to get to see where their dollars go. So a comprehensive benchmark beforehand, followed up by a report, I think would be even better.
Okay.
Thank you, and I think that's a great approach. I had a long conversation with the city manager about this in particular event and was convinced that it was a good ROI. However, I would love to see what the trade-off is. Personally, I think we should dedicate these funds first and foremost to events that actually originate and occur in Scottsdale, and whether or not they're here now when we're spending money on big events that are in another part of the city. I struggle to think that no one's going to stay in Scottsdale if we don't contribute $225,000. I think that's simply not the case. So I don't know how you parse through those details in order to confirm that that's really included in the economic impact, and would we have that economic impact with or without that event? So I'll look forward to that discussion, but most importantly, I want to see what the trade-off is and what we're putting there rather than investing in new events in Scottsdale that actually are here and here year over year, for example. So looking forward to that, and having said all that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate. Oh, you are. You're right. Thank you. Sorry about that. And City Clerk, yep. This is Brian Scott. Go ahead and thank you.
Okay. So again, I've brought the updated 2025-2026 event development guidelines for you to see, because nobody wants to talk about them. The Tourism Development Commission doesn't talk about them. Council doesn't talk about them. But here they are again for you. I would say the city analysis is misrepresentation, because it doesn't include what the guidelines say. And the guidelines prohibit this from going on, right? It says it's makes an exclusion for a mega event. Nowhere in the analysis does it say this is a mega event. So it's excluded. See, the qualifications, you have to meet all the qualifications to be eligible for funding. So I'm just here to throw some basics at everyone. And I want to remind you that the event development guidelines exist. They're not a decoration, they're protection. They were created so taxpayer dollars aren't handed out on gut feelings tied to accountability, but tied to accountability, transparency, and measurable return. So we're paying these city staff hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're missing basic items here. The original Tourism Development Commission bylaws from 1988 said funds must follow criteria to ensure projects meet the intent of this division. That intent was simple: protect public funds, and each year this council has adopted these guidelines as policy. So if we ignore them, we're not just bending the rules, we're breaking the trust. Scottsdale Tourism Fund should never go into a black box or get spent outside our city without clear benefits to our residents. So I urge you, follow the guidelines you approved, uphold accountability, and don't make exceptions that undermine these safeguards. And I'll say my advice is, or my suggestion is, that you reject this. Put it right back to the city staff and tell them you want radical transparency. You don't want to have to take the fall for somebody like me come up here and point out the obvious things. And why isn't the Tourism Development Commission talking about these? Saves a lot of time.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. You raised some good points, and I really appreciate your passion. And I, for one, will be looking at all those points you just made. Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Gigama, is there a requirement for us to write this check for the event to qualify as a mega event?
No, not necessarily, but I'd like to point out that document that was up there, that is our criteria, define the mega events in 1 and 2, and that generally an event that's regionally participated in, like this one, I'm go into who's participating. The host committee who's here can go into that. But that defines a mega event as well as the structure of what we are presenting here. That was on that document 1 and 2.
Mr. Gigema, does the event have to qualify as a mega event for us to write the check? Yes or no?
Well, to define it as a mega event, those criteria I just went through, that would define it as a mega. The TDC makes the recommendation based on the presentation and the values associated with that. Staff brings forward that recommendation.
Correct. No, but I'm just, and that's the process. And I'm just kindly asking, so the gentleman put some points for the events to qualify, because this event is not in the city of Scottsdale. So that's okay if it meets certain exceptions. Does it have to meet all those exceptions or just one of those exceptions?
Generally, the two that I just went through, that it's a regionally participated event, both from a funding aspect and a venue aspect.
Correct.
And generally, those things that were in there are for our large events, regional events. Super Bowl would be a perfect example of that.
Correct, yeah.
So that kind of frames that. Those type of requests. Oh.
Does it have to be a mega event for us to participate?
Not necessarily. Okay. No, that helps the criteria for the commission and for staff to recognize that as a variable that we proceed forward in terms of what's there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gigema.
Vice Mayor DeBascus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the criteria that the resident just provided to us, it did say that it was a disqualifying event if they were receiving regional dollars from multiple cities, did it not?
Not disqualifying. No, if they have to be, if they don't receive it, that could be disqualifying. In this particular case, the host committee for the Women's Final Four is receiving regional participation.
And so we do not feel that this meets, this is a disqualifying event. You're comfortable that this is a qualifying event that that does not violate the guidelines?
Correct. The Tourism Commission and city staff believes this meets the guidelines for a mega event and funding at this level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, I will please, there's a motion and a second. Please indicate your approval by voting yes. Or no. Well, the approval would be disapproval.
No, one or the other.
Councilman Quasman. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving right along, next time we move to the regular agenda, the City Council will consider each item, starting with item 15, which is an applicant appeal of the Historic Preservation Commission denial of a certificate of appropriateness to screen in a balcony patio at a residence within the Villa Monterey Unit 7 Historic District with multiple family residential. Historic property R-5 HP zoning, which is at 7635 East Pasadena Avenue. I see Jesus Murillo standing at the podium. Historic Preservation Officer, please proceed.
Mayor, I'm recusing on this item.
Okay, so let's hold while Councilman Graham exits. Go right ahead, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Borowski, Vice Mayor DeBascus, and members of the City Council. Again, my name is Jesus, planner here with the city, but today I'm wearing my Historic Preservation Officer hat. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to bore you just a little bit with some HB, historic property procedural information that I hope will help explain how we got here tonight. Typically, as you well know, including the City Hall, we've got historic preservation overlays on a variety of communities and properties in the city. As such, anytime a case or a property receives that designation, there's two cases that go with it. One is a zoning case and another one is an HB, historic property case. With those cases come along what we call guidelines. And those guidelines are what are used as criteria to understand whether a request in the future on that property still allows that property to be historically significant. So as such, when those guidelines are approved with those zoning cases and HP cases, even though they're called guidelines for the purposes of the cases themselves, they are considered ordinances like other ordinances in the city. I also wanted to share that the bylaws of the Historic Preservation Commission state that if there is a vote made, be it in the affirmative or in the negative, if there's got 3 to 3 votes, if it's a tie vote, it is considered a denial. And so a little more information to, again, get to how we got here tonight. Through the HP process, we have 2 separate processes. One is called a certificate of no effect, and that's when a request is made that seems to be on a lower level and within the authority of staff. It's almost like a staff approval, if you will. And then the larger requests that really need to be vetted against the guidelines is called a certificate of no effect. It is that certificate of no effect, or I'm sorry, certificate of appropriateness that was requested of the Historic Preservation Commission. When an applicant or an owner does not agree with the decision made by the Historic Preservation Commission, they are allowed to come and appeal that to the council. And so as such, tonight, the City Council is being asked to act in the role of the Historic Preservation Commission in regards to the appeal. So thank you. So again, the action that requested, as the mayor mentioned earlier, is an appeal of the Historic Preservations Commission. In the request was to enclose with a screening the 2nd-story balcony at this location. So the location, as you can see here on the larger scale, is located on the northeast corner of East Miller Road and East Chaparral Road. A closer look, you could see that it's more specifically on the southeast corner of North 76th Place and East Pasadena Avenue. And yes, it does have the R5 HP designation over it. So some of the key items for consideration, staff became aware of the screening or the enclosure of the 2nd-story patio by a neighbor who put in a request, a citation with the code enforcement. So staff did vet those criteria. We vetted what had already been done with the criteria and felt that this was a call for the Historic Preservation Commission. As such, this is an appeal of their decision. These are some of the graphics that are some of the pictures that were provided at that Historic Preservation Commission hearing. As you can see, some of these are from the interior of the enclosure and some are from the outside. Here's a couple more of those pictures. As you can see, the netting that encloses that 2nd-story patio. When it was presented to the Historic Preservation Commission, it was done so at 2 different occasions. On May 1st, it was provided through a presentation by both staff and the applicant. The Historic Preservation Commission felt they needed more information, so they continued it to the June 5th. It is at that June 5th decision that the certificate of appropriateness was requested one more time from them, and that is what is being appealed here today. So when it was presented to the Historic Preservation Commission, staff provided the 2 main guidelines, again, ordinances that identified or that were related to the improvements themselves. The first one is from policy number 13, more specifically 13.2, which states that we should avoid applying a new exterior material such as stucco or siding that obstructs the historic pattern or a combination of those materials applied. So again, that's what staff felt during their review that was done to the site. The second guideline that closely resembled that needed to be vetted with the improvement was policy number 19, more specific 19.4, that providing shade in ways that are traditionally used in the development, such as cloth awnings or windows, and to avoid installing shade screens on the exterior that obscure the historic windows or doors. So staff had made the recommendation to the Historic Preservation Commission that they did deny the case based off of those 2 criteria. The Historic Preservation Commission then voted in the affirmative, and it ended with the 3-3 vote. Again, as per their bylaws, resulted in a denial. So now the action here requested of the City Council tonight is again for the issuance of the certificate of appropriateness and the appeal of the decision from the Historic Preservation Commission's denial to enclose that 2nd-story balcony patio area. So tonight, the City Council, acting as a Historic Preservation Commission, has the 4 decisions that you see there before you on the screen. One is to uphold the Historic Preservation Commission's decision and deny the case. The second is to reverse the Historic Preservation Commission's decision, and then identifying the guidelines that you feel that the improvements do meet. approve the case with additional stipulations, or continue the case again for additional information. And so that concludes staff's presentation. I know the applicant has a presentation themselves, and again, staff is here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Tim Lasota on behalf of the applicant. It's a good question, though. Was that the right answer? Ben, sorry, that was the wrong answer. Everybody else stands there. You're special.
We need review.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. I'd like to, I'm Tim Lasota, 2198 East Camelback Road in Phoenix, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Kathy Young, who's here with us today in the audience. And I think one of the things that was said earlier was you can see the screen here, and I think that one of the first points is you can barely see the screen. I mean, and we are here today talking about a screen that's been put up on this upper patio that you see in this photo. Now, the screen has been up for 6 years now. In fact, one of the persons, Ms. Young's neighbor, this has gotten some attention in the neighborhood, and she called her to ask why she had taken down her screen. Well, the answer was she hadn't taken down her screen, but it's so visually unobtrusive that her neighbor thought she had. When she put up the screen, it had the full support of her HOA, and I don't think there's anyone in opposition to it. The person who opposed it had actually moved out. The person who bought the house supports it. So I think one of the reasons people support it is, these historic neighborhoods, they have a lot of appeal, but when we overdo it on them and create a straitjacket, I think that appeal gets lost. And the people that are closest to this project who love this neighborhood, and it truly is a unique neighborhood, it's gorgeous, are supportive of this screen. I do want to get into some of the staff, and I'll get back to that in a second, but let's talk about Policy 13 to begin with. And yes, it was a 3-3 commission vote, so obviously if there was one more person, there would have been no appeal. Okay, Policy 13, preserve the patterns of building materials and elements that distinguish the Villa Monterey townhouse style. Avoid applying a single new exterior material such as stucco or siding that obscures the historic pattern. I mean, we're not talking about stucco or siding. We're talking about a screen. It's meant essentially to be able to, so that her cat can go out on the balcony and can't get out, can't be subjected to potentially some of the feral creatures in her neighborhood. It's just that. It's not anything but a screen. And staff, I don't know if anyone read the report, but they went out and measured it with candlelight and took part of it to the hardware store. I think the proof's in the pudding. I mean, you can hardly see this thing as the pictures bear out. So, I mean, I don't think we're even talking about Policy 13. It doesn't seem to apply. We're talking about something that is not stucco, it's not siding, it doesn't really obscure anything. Let's talk about Policy 19, minimize the visual impacts of utilities, accessory structures, and equipment and other fixtures. Provide shading in ways traditionally used in the development, such as cloth awnings over windows. Avoid installing shade screens on the exterior that obscure historic windows or doors. Well, this isn't really a shade screen. It's a screen, and it's not a fixture either. I think for whatever reason, the staff it seems like they kind of tried to find anything as a reason for denying this certificate of appropriateness, and what we've gotten here is essentially these policies that don't even seem to apply, that have been used to stop Ms. Young from doing something, from keeping something that she's had for many years without really any problem. I do want to talk a little bit about, here we see some of the other things in the neighborhood. I think these are examples of shade screens. You see them over the houses. And my point here isn't that, look at what everyone else is doing. The point is that these little additions here and there have not ruined the neighborhood. They have not made the neighborhood not historic. They have not led to a decline of the neighborhood. I think these are much more visually, I don't even know what the right word is, but noticeable than the screen that Ms. Young would have. I would also point out, this is something, if you see it right in the middle there, it covers a water treatment unit, and that was approved. So some of these other ones may have been grandfathered in, but again, the point isn't whether they should have been allowed or shouldn't have. The main point is, look, these things, there's always going to be little things that people do to their houses, and that's just the reality. And again, probably the reason the people who are closest to this project support it is because you have to have a minimum flexibility in order for the neighborhood to remain attractive. So with that, I know we've already heard the staff presentation on this. We've already seen a number of photos, but I'll just take you back to the actual screen, and we'd ask that it is important to Ms. Young. She's lived in the neighborhood a long time. She likes to be able to, it makes the patio, the upstairs patio, more comfortable. It makes it more livable. It is very important to her. It doesn't seem like it's much of a burden on the neighborhood at all, and it certainly seems to meet the criteria for a certificate of appropriateness. So we'd ask that you approve that here tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lasota. The only question I had was what the HOA say about it, and you already said that, so thank you for sharing that. We're going to turn to public speakers here now, and starting with Diane Frank, followed by Jennifer Ramadan, and Marissa Young.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, I'm Diane Frank. I live in Villa Monterey 7, where Kathy Young lives. And I think the gentleman that spoke just before me took away a lot of the points I was going to make. However, I would also like to point out that that is possibly the most absurd ruling I've heard yet from Historic Commission. We live in a community that just went through the hottest summer ever, and this lady is trying to protect the second floor of her house where the heat rises to. I think SRP would say the same thing. We all almost all of us have screens on our windows, even if they're only one-story houses. I have a screen on my house. She has a cat. We have 2 owls living in a tree, quarter of a block away. We have coyotes that roam the neighborhood every afternoon and evening. They're bold and brazen, and I see no reason whatsoever why she shouldn't have the screen. Those of us who live there have not complained about it. Times change, the weather changes. I think it's a reasonable addition to her house, even though it's not permanent. I have seen changes that are incredible. People have built walls in front of their houses. I don't have the pictures. They've made patios on their front yards. One gentleman in Unit 6 has paved his driveway with pavers. That was not original. There's plastic grass on numerous houses. That's not original. I think that Historic has overstepped their boundaries, and this is not the first time, and I know this is not the place now for me to take this up with them, but when you are living under their
rules and regulations. You are no longer the king of your castle or the queen of your castle. You make the payments and you are technically the owner, but you are not in charge of your own property. And I am absolutely opposed to making her take down the screen for those reasons. It's inconvenient and it's a loss of ownership rights. And nobody else in the community has complained about it except this one gentleman who was a nightmare of a neighbor, and that's a whole other story. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jennifer Ramadan. Oh, I understand. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Well, that concludes public comment on this item, and I don't see any questions or comments from anybody here on the dais. So with that, anyone want to offer a motion? I think I'm going to make the motion. I'll jump to the chase here. So thank you for speaking. Thank you, staff. I don't understand why this was opposed by the Historic Preservation Commission. I don't understand why. I don't know if staff was really opposing it, but nonetheless, I'll make the motion to, I guess it's reversal, even though, as Tim Lasota said, it was a draw, but in that case, it's a failure. So I will make the motion to reverse the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please indicate by aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry, or yes on the keypad.
It's not coming.
One of these days, we're going to get this working.
We could just
In the meantime, we'll just play a song.
There we go.
All right. Yeah, back in the old days, we used to just do that, right, Kathy?
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. We've already done all the public comments, so we don't have any more public comment for non-agendized. And moving on to item number 17, receipt of citizens' petitions. I don't see any of those. Nope. And so next we have item number 18 under the mayor and council items are next, 18 through 20. 18 is for our boards and commissions to continue their annual 2024 report presentations. Tonight we have annual presentations by the Board of Adjustment and the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve Commission. So I'd like to invite up the Board of Adjustment, individuals here, and staff member. Oh, sorry, did I take that? All right, there we go.
Good evening, Mayor Borowski and council members. My name is Brian Clough. I'm one of the planning managers with the city's planning department. I am also the staff representative for our Board of Adjustment. Here with me this evening is the board's chair, Mr. Jason Chacrone. I'm going to start out with the first couple slides and give you a brief introduction of the board and what they do, and then I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Chacrone to finish up with the last couple slides. Next slide, please. And the Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body made of 7 members appointed by the City Council. They are tasked with 4 pretty specific duties. That is to hear applications for variances from the zoning provisions of the zoning ordinance, appeals of the zoning administrator's decisions and interpretations, as well reviewing requests for disability accommodations. And under the land division ordinance, they also hear appeals of general managers' interpretations or decisions. Unlike other boards and commissions, the Board of Adjustment is a bit unique in that they do make the final decision on their actions. appeals of the Board of Decision go before the Superior Court. That's a quick summary there, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Chacron. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clough, Mayor Borowski, and City Council. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Jason Chacron, Chair of your Board of Adjustment. Some key accomplishments from last year. You can see we had 5 meetings in 12 months, so we don't meet every month. Kind of jumps around a little bit. We heard 8 cases last year. 3 cases were approved, 5 cases were denied. A little breakdown of those. We had zoning ordinance variances. We had 4 cases. We approved 3, denied 1. We had 3 zoning administrative appeal cases. We denied all 3. And then we had 1 disability accommodation request, and we denied that as well. Next slide, please. Excellent. Thank you. So upcoming challenges, opportunities. This year, I'll be stepping down in December. I'll have my 6 years up. So we'll have a new chair voted in on January. One other obstacle that we see is the majority is a very young board this year. Most of us are 2 years or less, except for myself, that will be moving on. And with that, and not having regular meetings every year, we decided that with our legal team and staff that we would do a little more robust training initially when we have new people coming on, as well as looking at refresher trainings throughout the year. When we go a couple of months without having a meeting, things get a little old, we forget a little bit, so we actually just had a refresher training last month. So when we see things go a month or 2 or 3, legal and the staff will get us all together and help us with a little refresher. We haven't done that in the past, so we're going to start trying to do that in the future. One other thing that I brought up to staff was the qualifications of members. In a previous meeting with the DRB, you guys decided to try and have more specific types of people on your member boards. So I wanted to see if you guys would look at that as well for the future, trying to provide a certain type of board member that has a little more understanding of how the quasi-judicial system may work. Contractor guys like me don't have a lot of the legal background, so we're looking at how you did the DRB in emphasizing trying to have more specific qualifications, where that board is requiring to have 3 members with architectural, landscape architectural, environmental science, those kind of things for that board. So when it comes to the Board of Adjustment, I think it's going to be important to try and have at least 2 that have some sort of legal background. I was lucky enough to have a lot of lawyers and even judges on my board with me the past 6 years, and it's very, very helpful. This new board that you have, I think we have 1 lawyer on right now, and that's it. So we all feed from each other, we all work together very well, but I think we might want to consider that when you're looking at appointing new board members. That's all I have. If you have any questions for us, we're here to answer any.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Thanks for your service. And I love the fact that you just offered those recommendations. I think that's a great idea. Councilwoman McKellen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Is it Chacron?
Chacron, yes.
Okay. And thank you for your suggestions. It's always helpful, especially you've served, it seems like 3 terms then, if it's 6 years, 2 terms?
2 terms.
2 full terms, okay. Thank you. That's a lot of time to spend, especially that's a very intense board commission.
Yeah,
so thank you for your time and thank you for your suggestion.
Right, you're welcome. Thank you.
Councilman Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Chacron, first of all, and I apologize if I didn't see it in an email directly, but are those suggestions, were those submitted to us in writing before?
No.
Can you please submit that to the council in writing? Also, I have actually a question I could ask Brian. Are there other boards and commissions that with specific requirements to appoint that are specific to that board and commission, like, for example, professional license or otherwise, that you know of? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Mayor Borowski, Councilman Quasman, the one specifically that I know of is, as Mr. Chacron mentioned, the Development Review Board. Yep. Beyond that, I would have to defer to maybe the city attorney or another representative.
Right, other than the one that was spoken of. Is that okay if Luis, if you...
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, there are different boards that have specific requirements. Sometimes it's not necessarily licensure, but it could be they're from the tourism profession or such.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, and thank you. Do you think that the professional licensure of a bar license as part of it, as you said, recommended, but it should, in your opinion, it should not be required? And my ask is why not? I just want you to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I don't believe it needs to be an absolute lawyer. I mean, we have, it's a quasi-type situation. And understanding some legal terms, to me is important. I mean, we do get into that situation where if you understand certain terms, it will definitely help you understand where we're coming from a legal aspect of the board. And that's why I'm saying it shouldn't all be 7 lawyers or court reporters or something that has an understanding of the legal vernacular, but having a few has definitely been helpful during my 6 years. And now that I'm leaving and seeing that we don't have as much on the board today, does keep our discussions a little different. And so I just think it would be beneficial. And I'm not saying full-blown lawyer or anything, I'm just saying someone with some sort of background into that area.
Thank you very much. And I don't see any other questions. Thank you for being here, and good luck.
Thank you.
Next, we have the McDowell Sonoran Preserve Commission. Welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Borowski, Vice Mayor DeBasquez, members of City Council. I'm Nick Molinari, the Senior Director for the Parks and Recreation and Preserve Department. This evening, we're grateful to have an opportunity to update the Council on the activity and the accomplishments of the McDowell Sonoran Preserve Commission. We have our Commission Chair, Steve Coluccio, and our Vice Chair, Savannah Engerling, to provide our update.
Oh, I got to push that. Good. Thank you. So this is the McDowell Sonoran Preserve Commission 2024 Annual Report. I'll do this slide, Commission purpose and makeup. The Commission is responsible for making recommendations to the City Council on matters such as, but not limited to, 1, provide realistic funding plans and actions necessary to implement those plans. For example, utilizing the Parks and Preserve sales tax funding for the first time, we recommended funding for cultural resources, ERP projects, invasive species removal, and wildfire mitigation, as well as education. And these were the specific categories allowed under Proposition 490. 2, we serve as the Oversight Committee for implementation of preserve acquisitions. Of course, there haven't been any acquisitions for several years, but there's always a possibility that a strategic opportunity could come up, so we'll stand ready if that happens. Number 3, we prepare management plans for public lands and public access areas. So some of the trailheads some of the older trailheads, I should say, are beginning to show their age. And the recommended 5-year preserve improvement plan, which was recommended to the City Council, is our strategy for addressing that. Plus, the Rio Verde Drive Wildlife Overpass comes into play with the 5-year plan. And then 4th, we respond to any other requests on the part of the City Council. As far as the Commission and what it consists of, 7 citizens that are appointed by the City Council to include specific skills and experience to carry out the assigned tasks. So we have 3 members who are highly experienced in project management, 1 member with a strong financial background. Our vice chair here has wide experience in animal control and volunteerism, as well as in public lands law enforcement. And then the rest of us are just, we know a whole lot about the preserve and how it operates. Next slide. I'm going to turn this over to Vice Chair.
Test, 1, 2. Okay. All right, I'm Commissioner and Vice Chair Engel King, and I'm going to present the 4 key accomplishments and major actions taken by the Preserve Commission in the last year. So first, we had the 2024 update of the Ecological Resource Plan. So we enhanced the 2016 version of this plan by recommending guidance for the scientific studies that evaluate and monitor ecological resources in the preserve and promote its long-term health, in addition to evaluating what's currently going on. And then 2, we completed the Browns Ranch Interpretive Trail. Yay. There are now 4 interpretive trails in the preserve, but this is the first and only one that's dedicated to the celebration of our cultural resources here in Scottsdale. And 3rd, we recommended a 5-year preserve improvement plan and the 2025 budget, but with funding from the new Parks and Preserve sales tax. And then last but certainly not least, we continued wildfire and fuel mitigation work with the on the trails and trailheads within the preserve. This included 94 corridor miles or 335 acres that were manually treated with pre-emergent. And this is relevant because the pre-emergent that was applied was a key in stopping the wildcat fire at the Dove Valley Trail last summer in 2024. And then we continued working with Scottsdale Fire Department on a mitigation process. Yeah, thank you.
Is there another slide?
I don't.
Okay, so I'll take this. We didn't expect this slide to be on here, but I'll do my best to go through it. Excuse me. So upcoming opportunities, challenges, or outcomes. The Rio Verde Wildlife Overpass feasibility study would be number 1 on the list. The study is underway. Basically, what it'll do is establish cost estimates based on timing, size, design, materials, fencing, drainage, a number of things, to really help us understand what this project wants to look like. Year 1 capital improvements from the 5-year plan. I spoke just briefly about that in the opening slide, but basically, you know, we're looking in year 1 at doing things like improving some of the bathrooms at the older trailheads, new signage, drainage that's necessary, shade areas, volunteer space, trail bypasses, and parking resurfacing. Excuse me. Number 3, oversight of Parks and Preserve sales tax funding and the 2026-27 budget process. So, you know, last year things were a little bit rushed, just the way that the whole Prop 490 thing came about, and we finally got into the swing of things. We're expecting that this year we'll have a lot more time and opportunity to really dig into it. So, looking forward to the next budget cycle. And then finally, continue wildfire fuel mitigation efforts. We'll continue working with the fire department, you know, to coordinate efforts, you know, on both our parts. Questions?
Terrific, thank you. Councilwoman Whitehead.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank staff and board members from both, and really City Manager Caton. I think this idea of bringing the commissions forward is such a good one. So, I tend to stay close to what's going on in the Preserve Commission, less close on some of these commissions. I don't understand their work as much, but I really appreciate everybody who spoke tonight. So, great stuff happening.
Thank you, Councilwoman McCallum.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo what everyone else said. Thank you, especially since Scottsdale's greatest natural resource, you're taking the time to protect it. I know, Chair Coluccio, you met with the fire chief today to discuss these things. I know there's a lot of outside work that all of the commission members and board members do. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your service. Vice Mayor DeBoscos just rang.
Thank you. And Steve, I just wanted to say thank you for working on the wildlife overpass as well this year. I know that took up quite a bit of your time, but I think that
Sure.
it seemed like you guys were coming to a good place together. And so I appreciate your work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
No? Thank you.
Appreciate your input. That concludes the boards and commissions updates for tonight. And the next item on mayor and council is item number 19, which at the request of Councilman Graham, discussion whether to direct the city manager and city treasurer to agendize a future council meeting item for presentation, discussion, and possible action, direction, related to tourism event funding and the event funding threshold requiring full city council approval. So I will let Councilman Graham speak to this.
No, thank you, Mayor. Not much to say, except I invite my colleagues to support this future agenda item to just simply discuss looking at the marketing dollars that flow out of here and giving them another look from at the city council level. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Councilman Graham. Are you suggesting that we supplant the TDC's authority on this, or is there a missing area that you're asking for full city council approval? Everything that comes through the TDC, can you just be a little more specific on this?
Thank you, Mayor. That's part of the discussion, setting a threshold. You read that language. There's no intention to supplant. This is, we've been surprised kind of by some of the disbursements that have been made without council approval or even review. And so it's really just for us as a body to review that.
So maybe I wasn't clear about the question, but for Manager Greg Caton, don't we already approve these when they come through on the consent agenda on tourism development spending?
I may have to, Madam Mayor and members of council, I may have to call a colleague here to assist, but I believe when we brought forward modifications or an update for a 25-26 plan that was in approximately July of this year, there was, in an effort to streamline approach, a threshold that would be more administratively processed and particularly finalized by the mayor's signature. And that was where this item bubbled up for consideration this evening and further concern. I'll look to my colleague to see if I accurately reflected that.
And I think you're referring to items that are $30,000 or less.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Questions? Councilwoman Whitehead.
Yeah, I'm also just trying to understand this, Councilman Graham. I'm wondering if what we need is a work study session or something so that perhaps the newbies on here just better understand the process, because this is kind of wide open and we're running a pretty, it's a pretty tight ship. So I know that public speaker brought up some concerns about one event. So I think what I would be more supportive of if we just wanted a work study session, just like we did with Westworld, where we better understand the process, and then if there's a specific event that is funded that's of concern, bring that up separately. That would be my preference versus your request tonight. So if you were open to amending it to a work study, you'd get my support. Okay, so I'm getting a nod of no. So I'm just not, I'm unsure of the direction, so I'm not going to support it, but thank you.
So adding to that, I think Councilman Klausman talked about having a presentation about the scope of some of these, the decisions that are being made, and maybe we could join these two together and have an overall presentation on for example, the notes that the gentleman set up there, and just how many of the events are complying, where's the outliers, I don't know. Would you think that would add to the conversation? Maybe we could combine these two.
Let me ask this. So there's the 5%, we're talking about the 5% of the bed tax that the city manages. And do all 100% of contracts that are above certain thresholds, say $20,000, do some of those just go through the Tourism Development Commission, or do all those come to the council, is my question.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Graham, I believe the answer to your question is that some do not pass the threshold and therefore come to City Council. So,
But no, the question is,
okay.
do all above a certain threshold, like 20,000, whatever it is, come to City Council?
Yes. Oh, we have. Oh. Yeah, we are getting, Madam Mayor, if I may, I'm going to do that. Call a colleague and have some assistance here. We've got a little deeper past my ability to answer.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And Rachel Smetana, thank you for joining us. And this is kind of a continuation of the conversation we had maybe like before the start of the summer break. We talked about some of those funding mechanisms. And so was there any portion of the bed tax that the Tourism Development Commission approves and this council doesn't see?
There is, Mayor, members of council. So I wanted to be clear, because earlier you said the 5% marketing, that is different than the funding we're talking about. So there is 9% of the bed tax allocation goes to support special events. And so those are categorized in different event funding programs, minus a few small exceptions. And if an event funding program is less than $30,000 and the Tourism Development Commission approves it, then it just comes straight to the mayor for signature. Per the approved policy that you did in July 1.
Maybe, okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll accept Councilwoman Whitehead's suggestion and make this maybe a work study so we can just get a better handle on it and maybe get the temperature of where the council is going. So I will make that change. That was a good suggestion by my colleague.
I'll second it.
There you go.
All those in
I
favor?
didn't make the motion, by the way, but motion made.
Councilman Klasman.
I just want to make just a general statement that this was a wonderful example of how this council does work together when there is an interest in making sure that we are moving forward on behalf of the residents. So please, everybody take note of what just happened. Thank you. This has been a public service announcement.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate your vote.
And just point of order, so we're scheduling we didn't give you a date for the work study, is that okay? You'll just do it at the next event, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, good news, Councilman Klasman. The next item is item number 20, and another example of how we might work together to involve citizens in our lovely city's administration. So this is a request by me, which follows the Westworld work study session that we had last Monday. And again, I thank my colleagues for coming back to work prematurely and making it an effort to hear all of the stakeholders, and there it was primarily stakeholders, very passionate, involved groups that do a lot of business in our city, specifically at Westworld, and they've all been, for the most part, here a very long time. And a number of people talked about having a task force, including me. I think it's a wonderful idea, and it's not another study. Craig Jackson spoke here at length about where he thought we should be going with this, some concerns, some suggestions. I had a conversation with him earlier today, and his concern was, death by another study, and that's absolutely not the goal or the focus of this proposed task force. And to clear that up, this would be a task force comprised of 7 members, each one of the council members having a choice, an appointment for the task force, and it would be limited to stakeholders, people that are involved at Westworld, whether vendors, event producers, couple from the, as the proposed ordinance says, 2 from the equestrian industry, 7 members in total, 4 members from Westworld vendors or event producers, and 1 member of the Tourism and Development Commission, although I understand that that isn't possible because that would be someone serving on 2 different boards or commissions. So I think that might need some revision there. We can hold that to see if this passes, but nonetheless, whatever the direction would be, I think that having stakeholders involved would be the best idea. There's a lot of institutional knowledge out there that predates all of us, maybe not Kathy Littlefield, sorry. Because her husband was around when we did this, right? So was I, but it certainly predates a lot of the staff. I certainly did not mean to imply you have a tremendous depth of institutional knowledge, and it would of course require it to be Scottsdale residents. There was another comment I heard today that city staff doesn't really, they want to be able to do it themselves. I think this task force would provide just such a great advisory group that just wants to be helpful. As you heard them all here last week, they weren't a bunch of, just we're here to complain. They were here to be very, very proactive. And in keeping, I did mention someone from the TDC commission last week. When I think that's not going to be possible, our friend Craig Jackson, big supporter out there, he did offer to serve as the chair. And I would really encourage my fellow council members to support this idea. There's going to be a bunch of disappointed stakeholders if we reject having their input moving forward. All I can say is I think it can't hurt, and if it's useful, great, let's use it. If it's not, I don't see them being any sort of detractors or nuisance or cog in any wheel. So with that, I see the city attorney is asking to chime in.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, I just want to clarify on what we put on the agenda actually allows the task force members to be non-residents and waives the requirement that you can't be on a commission. And here's the legal justification. The charter says members of boards and commissions have to be residents of the city. This is not a board or commission, it's a task force. So the council can choose to waive both those requirements if it chooses to do so.
Okay, that's helpful. That makes sense now. All right, well, with that, I would like to make a motion to impanel or situate this task force as I've just outlined, and I would appreciate a second, and then hopefully we can have some discussion.
Second.
Who is the second? Councilwoman Littlefield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I would be a no on this. The reason is that at this time, I do not believe a task force is needed. Westworld is not a political problem. It is a managerial problem, and as such, the city manager is the one with the power and the authority to address it. The city manager has been made aware of and is sensitive to the issues, and he is the one who has the authority and the responsibility to deal with the staff and fix the problems. I have the utmost confidence that he will do so. And I believe that we should give him this opportunity and the time he needs to do it. A task force, I believe, would merely slow down the process. I think we have given Mr. Caton adequate direction over the last few weeks on what we believe needs to be done to keep Westworld the #1 top-notch horse facility in the country. I think we all agree on that. Also, I would like this council to receive regular reports on the actions taken and the progress that is being made as he goes forward. The mayor is correct in that Westworld is a very important asset to this city, and it should receive a high priority on all of our agendas. Action on this issue should not be delayed, and I would like the regular reports to come to all of us going forward on the progress that is made over the next month or two. If no progress is made, then I would consider the mayor's idea of a task force. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? No? All right.
Oh,
Well, Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep my words brief, or my remarks brief. I tend to agree with Councilwoman Littlefield, and I think I was kind of talking about this with some people today, but I think maybe putting Mr. Jackson, who I have a lot of respect for, who's a tenant of a government-empowered task force over the landlord, might be a bit of a conflict of interest. And so I totally agree with Councilwoman Littlefield. This is an important venue for our city. We know that it runs at a loss. We know that improvements need to be made. But I think a task force maybe might add unintended and new elements to turning it around and getting it operating where it needs to be. And so I'm agreeing with Councilmember Littlefield that empowering the city manager to look at it closely and see if we can measure some of those key performance indicators, figure out where we are financially, where defining success, and if we don't achieve that, then we should definitely consider other options as a council. So thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
So yeah, this is an interesting discussion. I think that the reason a task force makes sense, and we're not appointing anybody to the task force tonight, and so I do agree with the concerns about landlord-tenant, but because of the success at Westworld, we have multiple events going on the same day, same weekend, and we have a much broader group of people using the venue, the multiple venues on site. And also there's differences in the how each, what each event pays. So there's some inconsistencies, and of course there's inconsistencies on revenue. So there's a lot of moving parts, and so the idea of this task force is to have different stakeholders themselves at the table and having a discussion on how to better balance this. And for instance, is there, what I brought up the last time, is there a way, if we get all of the horse events, because even if we don't have a representative of each horse event that takes place at Westworld, if they're all involved, can we streamline that process so our poor staff isn't putting hay in, putting hay out, putting manure in, putting manure out, whatever. So that was the vision I had, and I think that I don't know Mr. Caton's position on this, but I think it would be helpful to have those kind of recommendations from some sort of stakeholder task force. And so that's why I'm supporting it. I also want to mention, and Judy will have to mention, bring this up when we have our next meeting at this, I think other than the mortgage, I think we're doing pretty darn good. So when we get that paid off, I think we're in the black. So, but let's see how far into the black we can get. So that's why I'm supporting a task force.
So in closing, it sounds like we don't have full support here enough to get this passed, but I think it's absurd to say you wouldn't include your stakeholders, your biggest producers of events in an advisory capacity to see how we might make the intricate facilities and management even better and stronger, especially when it comes to big items, which we know we need to do, which is infrastructure. They live and breathe it, so to exclude them seems a little absurd. And I don't see the conflict there at all because they're not going to be making decisions. They would serve only in an advisory capacity. And essentially what we're saying is we don't want the stakeholders to give input how we can do this better. When Greg Caton and I sat in a meeting along with Judy Doyle and Will, I forget his last name, the newer GM at Westworld, I mean, they had such a depth of knowledge in comparison to me and everybody else at the table because they've lived and breathed it. So to say we don't want that is, I believe, another step in the direction of not listening to our residents. My entire campaign was based on more resident input. It is such a struggle to get that going here at times, and I think that's the wrong direction. So with that, I know there's a motion and a second. Sorry, Councilman Klausman.
Yeah, I just, Madam Mayor, with all due respect, I take issue with the idea that not having a formal, governmental, quasi-governmental, another one, structure in order to make recommendations so that the actual governing elected body gets to hide behind the decisions of unelected individuals is an affront to representative democracy. And I think that we have got to get away from the idea is, unless we have a commission or a task force or some sort of quasi-elected group or appointed group, we're not listening to people. And that's just not true. Of course, everybody in this room would listen to the counsel of Craig Jackson. The man brings millions upon millions of dollars and goodness into the culture and everything into Scottsdale. Of course, we're going to listen to the equestrian groups and those who bring the beautiful and incredible equine species into this city. We're going to listen to everybody. But another task force, we might as well set up a citizens commission to apply to bring up the task force so that they appoint the task force to make sure that it's fair. At some point, the layers upon government become a reductio ad absurdum. And at the end of the day, this is a manager-managed council and a manager-managed city. Apologies. A manager-managed city. And I trust Greg Caton, and I trust his ability to appoint, fire, change, restructure how he sees fit. And if he fails this city, then he himself is going to have the consequences. This is a manager-managed city, and the residents are always going to have a voice among the elected, in the ear of the elected officials and the staff and the charter officers. But another task force, while it has good intentions, it is not the right path forward in this scenario.
That was an extremely dramatic response, and I appreciate your passion. However, I think what you said was we don't need the stakeholders to give us input how to make Westworld. Let's make it informal. I don't even understand what the difference would be. It's a temporary task force that would interface. Yes, a task force by its very nature has a project scope and time duration, which this one certainly could, and it's informal. It's certainly an advisory capacity, like I've mentioned. There are no formal decisions. Formal decision maker is not part of the proposal. It's advisory in nature, and we all saw the depth of knowledge from our stakeholders that will be offered to our staff to help them, not to hinder them. So while I appreciate your dramatic and passionate response, I'll bet you're going to vote no and exclude the stakeholders from the conversation based on those comments. Councilwoman, did you have something? Littlefield.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to add, I don't remember if I said this or not, but if we leave this in the hands of our city manager, he has the power to ask anyone and anyone on staff to be a part of it, to answer questions, to come to him, and to negotiate any kind of deal that needs to be done to get Westworld moving. How much lumber do we have? Is the lumber on site? When is it going to get there? Who's going to put it together to build the stables? What about the audio system? When is that going to be replaced? It needs it desperately for all of the activities at Westworld. Get a calendar of events and a report established. I would like to have regular reports sent to the council members on things that are being done and what's going on and what the timetable is for all of this activity to occur. And obviously, it all has to work around the events that are going on at Westworld, which will make it a little challenging, but not too much. I would say that if progress is not seen at Westworld in fixing these things up, then I would be quite willing to go back and take a look at a task force issue. But I think that the city manager has his finger on the pulse of this problem. He's been studying it, and I'd like to have him manage and take it over and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Littlefield. Councilman Graham.
Mayor, I'll keep these remarks brief. I don't want to belabor this, but I want to agree with everything Councilwoman Littlefield said. A task force at this time doesn't seem right at this time, but because I see that as kind of a little bit going around the chain of command, letting the manager do his job. But we know it's operating in a loss, and Councilmember Whitehead made a comment that once we pay off the mortgage, it's in the black. That's not true. It's not true. It's a bigger loss than that. And I wasn't even counting principal repayments. I mean, interest costs are there, but when you add depreciation, you add indirect costs, there's a loss anywhere from, I mean, even Jay reported $8, $9, $10, $11 million. So we do want to monitor it. That's important to this council. And we need to define success, because maybe a loss, like I've been saying, maybe a loss is okay, but how much of a loss is too much? Kind of be nice to define that. So that's my way of saying that I like the way that Councilwoman Littlefield worded that, and with her sentiment, I'm in total agreement. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, register your vote. Motion fails. Thank you. With that, we've concluded our business for this evening. Thank you all for being here in the storm, and drive safe home. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. No, it's off.